How I outgrew my job. How I outgrew my job, but was too scared to leave. Have you ever been in a situation at your job and you just feel like I'm not growing here? There's no real opportunities for professional growth. You just feel stuck and you just want to leave, but you're too scared to leave. We're going to talk about what that is like. How can you tell that maybe you're outgrowing your job? And then talk about what's keeping you there, because there's a lot of things that are maybe keeping you there that maybe you haven't really talked about or you haven't really acknowledged. And it's important for us to acknowledge those things that keep us in situations so we're able to walk through it. So when we think about being in a toxic job, it may not be a toxic job that we're talking about. It might be just a job that you've outgrown. So many Black women who watch my channel are still working in a job. And some of you said, well, my job is not toxic, but there's no real opportunities for growth here. So we're talking about that. We're talking about if the job, you've outgrown it. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist of over 20 years. I'm also a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm also the co-founder of the second annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, which just passed. If you're interested in getting the replay, you can access that by going in the description section of this video, and I'll also have it going across the screen. So today I'm excited to have Dr. Carla here with us today. So Dr. Carla, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you for having me here, Kimani. It is something that I love to do, and that is supporting women, high performing women, getting to that next level in their lives. It doesn't have to be promotion. It doesn't have to be, something huge. I love something huge if that's where they are, but it also can be more of the mental, social, professional thing that they're trying to break and they feel stuck. So what I do, I own CM Coaching and Consulting, and I have different ways that I love to explore with women of color, with the men of color, with I actually culturally I cross all boundaries, but my focus is really on that high performing Black woman who gets in there and doesn't necessarily have the support that maybe someone else would.
Okay. Well, thank you. Welcome for our conversation today. So let's start with, well, I know you have. So let's start with being in a situation in a job and you were like, I think I'm outgrowing this job. Can you explain to us what was happening? How could you tell that you were outgrowing the job? Just kind of walk us through that.
Sure. One thing I have to say, when I was thinking about this time with you, I think I entered back into the job force already outgrown. So let me give you a little backstory. So I worked and I did some of the same things as the office manager, different things like that in the office. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. So I call that a domestic goddess. And then as life has it, things changed in my marriage. And so here I am, 10 years out of the workforce, having to get back in. But before that, I had a nonprofit, 10 years. I started a magazine. I did women conferences. I'm traveling to speak. So, I'm feeling bossy, right? That's why I said
You're doing a thing.
I'm
Okay.
doing the thing. I had, great support, great team. And so then, I had to get a job. And there were 4 kids, young kids at the time, and figuring out how to enter back in. So I went to my comfort zone, which is the office, and which is supporting someone in their dream and in their goals and, whatever the company's goals were. And so I did that and went on. And while I went to school, I'm trying to make this short here. When I was working, I was also going to school. So I had a part-time job as an office manager for an engineering company. And I went and got my associates and into my bachelor's. Then I was laid off. So I was on unemployment getting my bachelor's. So I think, because I don't know where you were, school was kind of, pushed on us at the time. Now there's other things we can do to make an income, but school was the thing. So I said, let me go back and get my business administration, get my bachelor's. So I did that and I ended up getting a job first contractor, then I was hired on full time. Then my life changed. I just was like, I'm doing good. I had insurance. I have all the FSA and HS, all the stuff you need to feel good
All the
about
bells and
yourself.
whistles,
All of it.
good
401k.
benefits. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so then, even then, I felt like I was going in already outgrown, because I went in as an administrative assistant, and then I promoted up to an executive assistant at the time, but paid well. EAs, they get paid. So I don't know if anyone knows that. We get paid very well. And so after I got my bachelor's, I went and got my master's while I was working for this company because they paid for it. So I'm good. What I was doing, Kimani, was finding a company or companies or a job that can be my investor while I worked on educating myself to do what I wanted to do. So I would conduct therapy and I still had a full-time job. I would do it part-time. And after I got my master's, I went on and got my PhD. I was recruited from another company and worked there, and I finished my PhD. So this is all happening, and I'm serving and helping and promoting another company's vision. But on the other side of it, I still had my business going. And then there's this one day, because remember, they're my investor. That's how I really had to look at it. They're my investor. I'm holding meetings at lunchtime and break with clients I was just doing it, right?
You were juggling.
I was juggling, but it was making it work. And that's how I built up some clientele. But there's this day I walk in and I'm just walking in the building and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I never thought that it would just be, I would only do what I do in my coaching or in my executive coaching or in my life coaching or in therapy. I just thought I could keep it like this because money's good. It's flowing. Insurance is there. Things are good. I didn't have that much saved, but I had a savings. It hit me. I can't do this anymore.
I can't juggle. Even though you said to yourself, and I think many times when we start our own businesses, we'll say, oh, I got this, right? I can handle all this because I love the steady income and I'm growing my own business. I have the best of both worlds. And you said that you were using your full-time job as an investor to you starting your own business. But at a certain point, you were like, wait a minute, I am helping somebody else with their dreams and their business. Right. What about my business? Because you came in from someone who had her own business and doing very well. So now it's like, wait a minute, I went to my comfort zone, but now I'm not feeling fulfilled.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it was such a pull. It wasn't just like I'm tired of this, that too, but it was also just somewhat of a pull that when I sat down at my desk, I just started crying and got emotional and I was trying to hold it in. And a coworker, a friend of mine walked by, are you okay? And I'm like, I gotta go. They're looking at me like, you gotta go. And I went into this break room, it was sealed off and I just started crying because I just knew it was this time. It was time to make some adjustments. So that's when I knew.
Did something happen at the job or was it just more like this internal knowing like this is not it?
It was that and nothing happened. What was happening though, my attitude was changing. Whereas things bothered me a little bit more than normal. You can be in a job and everything's fine. All of a sudden I was like, why am I doing this? I don't know if it's because now I just had finished my doctorate. So I had it, I don't know if it clicked and it started bonding in my mind, like you can do something else with what you have. But it also, and let me go back a little, at this time, I was looking to promote it within the company.
Okay.
However, there was, I could move to HR. That's what I felt. Let me get into HR. So there was some meetings set up to meet with this chief of HR, and they didn't show. The thing was, the night before, I had this dream, and I don't know about you, Kimani, but there is this thing. I don't dream a lot, but this dream seemed so vivid compared to when I took in mind what was going to happen the next day. And in this dream, I'm in the driver's seat of this. It was a car, then it turns into a van. You know how dreams are. And then I go to from being in the front seat to the back seat. And all of a sudden, the van turns around and it starts trying to back in to moving traffic. So I'm going backwards into moving traffic, and I'm sitting in the back going, "It's not going to work. I don't think we could get in there." You know, I mean, it was just like I felt a kind of anxious in this dream. And then after a while, it was kept trying to push up against the traffic and get in, and we couldn't. And then I wake up. So the next day, my interpretation seems to come. The chief doesn't show up for the interview. And I was okay. And then a dream came to mind. I was going, this is my interpretation, back I was in the back seat. I was no longer in the driver's seat. So
That's
what I was
profound right there.
what I was about to do was about to get out of control, out of my control. And then trying to back in, not even forward. It was like backing in, some more backward stuff into traffic that was moving and very chaotic. So I was like, that's enough for me. I don't want to go backwards. I do want to be in control of my future, my profession. And I don't want to get into a chaotic situation because rumor had it, it was very chaotic, a lot of movement of people, so
So your
the next.
psyche was saying, girl, you don't want this. You don't want this. Number one, you're not in control of what's happening right now, and you're going into chaos. Girl, you don't want this. And
You
we
don't
need to
want
pay attention to those dreams because those dreams are telling us something.
it,
And
right,
sometimes we ignore it. We're like, no, but it pays better. Or no, this
right.
is a step to advancement. Or no, but you're like, nah, I don't think so. So before you were at your desk crying and your coworker came
Hmm.
to you, were there
Hmm.
other like more subtle signs like I think I've outgrown this place.
Yes. Well, one, because, like I said, my attitude started shifting where it wasn't just the love of the job was gone. That was one of it. I didn't have too much of a toxic environment. Now, I'm going to tell you about me. I kind of see life through some rose glasses, I have to admit. A lot of stuff that bothers others, I don't pay attention to. I kind of just keep it moving. And maybe because I knew this was not my end all, this was not my career, this is not where I'm landing. And so a lot of stuff could be very toxic, could be very off. And there was stuff going on, but it didn't, I was accused of not this doing a lot of work. Like she's not at her, I would take breaks at what I would go in the morning, have a break, like we're allowed lunch, and then, go and have another break in the afternoon. I would go walk. And during these walks though, it was unique. I was getting that. This is getting close to the time where it's starting to go kind of thing. So it became very it was a pull and a push at the same time. And then the push meaning when they saying I'm not doing work, she should be doing more. And the funny thing, when I did leave this position, I had to. So after I felt that, I didn't have the talk with my leader right away. I think it was that happened at the end of one year, and then the next year, I think I started the year off with the conversation. And one of their asks were, "Can you find someone to replace you before you go?" Yeah, yeah. Not my job, but
What?
okay.
I was about to replace you. Like, how's that your job?
Yeah. Yeah. Find someone to replace you because you know your job, and it would be great if you can pick them. And well, that's a way to get me to stay too. Right. And I was like, no. So during that time, so I did. I started interviewing, and it was some rough stuff. Nothing was really merging the way that I took it seriously. So I was really trying to replace me. And I mean, maybe I was too hard on the people because I'm like, that's not going to work. Knowing the leader, knowing the senior VP, I knew how it was kind of going to come off. So I was really trying to make it right. But in that, I did approach our HR partner and I asked if there was something else that may open up for me in HR. And she came back and said, "Oh, you know what? You're an anomaly." we really, who has done what you've done, and then you've gone from you're in this position and now you have a PhD, and so we wouldn't know what to do with you. So then that was the other.
We won't know what to do with you.
We don't know what to do with you.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
so
is
figure
interesting.
out, right? So, but there is, those are the things, Kimani, that we have to look at when things don't align. When things
Mhm.
just seem like, that's weird. What are you talking about? You don't know what to do with me.
Right.
When it's just, to me, those are doors that are just giving me the way to get out. Stop
Yeah.
making it happen. I didn't have to beg. I'm not going to beg. If you don't
Mhm.
have anything, I'm going to take you at your word. I think it's ludicrous, but yet, you know, hey, so all of
So
that,
basically, I'm sorry. So
go
basically, they
ahead.
were telling you, they were confirming that you had outgrown the job, basically,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
So you have so much experience and education, you have outgrown
right,
this job.
right,
We don't have anything for you, basically. No
yes.
growth. No
No
growth.
growth here. No growth here. And
Mm,
that's the sad thing with people, or you are here or in an executive assistant position.
mhm,
Normally, now there's some who, rise up, but normally it's a very difficult jump because
mm,
they see you as someone that they have told what to do and you follow. Now, how are you going to come in this maybe leadership role, or having more agency, and what will that look like? Would people look at you? Would they listen to you? Would they all this stuff that can go? But for many, some people just like to stay in that role, which is great. But then someone like me, I was already doing something. I was
right.
already, and then I kept forgetting, you're doing something. Get
Mm,
back to know you went ahead and got comfortable with these positions. You could
mhm,
have done something else, but now
mhm.
it's time to go forward. So eventually I did get out of there. I'd say I call it transitioned. I
Okay.
transitioned out of my employment,
Okay.
and didn't have all of. So should I stop there? Because I think
No,
I
I'm
might go.
curious. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued. I'm intrigued because the
Well,
next, my follow-up question to you was, before us talking about your transition out, can we talk
mhm,
a little bit about um, what kept you there? Because you said
mm,
that you were starting to have signs like,
yeah,
I think I've
yeah.
outgrown, I think I've outgrown, to the point where you start crying and, at the
Mhm,
job. But what kept you there when you start having those initial signs like, I think I'm outgrowing this place? What kept you
mhm.
there?
Well, it's the money. It's the
Okay, I'm throwing
stability,
handcuffs.
right?
Okay.
It's the stability. It's for kids. You want the insurance.
Mm,
You want the bells and whistles.
mm,
You want the freedom.
yeah.
Um, the freedom of knowing you're getting a check
Right.
like clockwork.
Yeah.
You want that. You get paid sick days. All these things that
Mhm.
are supposed to keep us.
Mm, mhm.
And they weren't really handing out any more money. I don't think, I was pretty much at the top of
Okay.
whatever umbrella they give for that particular role.
Mhm.
But that's why you still kind of either just eat it, just stay there, and
Mhm.
or you take the leap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
security, as much as the security was there, it
Mhm.
wasn't enough to secure my future.
Okay, okay. Now, the other part that I hear a lot from Black women is the why I want to ask you. A
Sure.
lot of times I hear, and this is my own experience too, that even though I knew that I had outgrown the job, but my job was toxic, right? I knew I had outgrown it too. It was the fear of how am I going to replace my income? So I heard you
Mhm.
say you like that stability. So how did you walk through those fears about, wait a minute, I got a steady income, I got good benefits, I got kids. How did you
Mhm.
walk fears? Because I think a lot of Black women are probably like, how did she do it?
Well, one of the things definitely was working on my mindset before I jumped. So
Mhm.
when I gave like the talk, it was early of the year, and I didn't leave till June. So
Okay.
my job was first mentally and spiritually getting it together, like, because I was about all the, there is no basically parachute here.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fear was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I would wake up at the middle of the night, and think about, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But I never changed my mind of leaving. The
Okay.
thought could come, but it just, everything starts showing up more and more that there was no room for me. There's nothing there for me. Great people, but
Mhm.
nothing career wise, nothing that I found. And on the other side, I also, to help with that fear, is I still had client base that I was growing. And
Okay.
so
Still
that
had
was
your own
income from
business.
there. Yeah. And then while I was working, I'd had an office. I was sharing an office with someone. They offered it to share. So I had an office to go to and conduct business before I even leaped. So I had an office set up
Mm-hmm.
and everything. I had access, and it was set to leap. It was
Yeah.
really set to go,
Yeah.
but it still didn't take away from the fear. So
True.
money, I only had about maybe 3 months worth of savings,
Mm.
which the books do not say. You're
Mm.
supposed to have all all of it together. I
Mm-hmm.
read one book called the Entrepreneurial Leap. And all those, they had all these great stories about people who took the leap and went
Mm-hmm.
into their own business, but they
Mm-hmm.
all had some kind of year, 3 year, 5 year
Oh,
savings.
wow.
I was like, not me.
That is very unusual for us as Black women to have that cushion.
With kids,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
Right.
But what I really appreciate what you're saying is the mindset, right?
Right.
But part of it was I acknowledge the fear. I know the fear is there, and the importance of preparation. So you had
Mhm.
already been preparing. So you already had your own business already, right? So you were already preparing for that. And when I talk to Black women on my channel, I talk about the importance of preparation.
Oh
That I
yeah.
never, ever, ever say to a Black woman, "Girl, just leave. Girl, you
Mm-mm.
outgrown it. Girl, it's toxic. Just leave." I never say that because we
Yeah.
all have bills to pay. And that's not responsible for me to
Mhm.
say that to anyone unless they're in immediate danger, physically and or
Yeah.
psychologically. Girl, go. Okay. But if not, how do we start preparing to pivot out? So
Mhm.
you acknowledge
Right.
the fear. So the mindset was, okay, I acknowledge the fear, but there's no
Yes.
opportunity for me to grow here. So it's like a reality testing with yourself. Now, you
Yes.
also talked about spiritually. Can you
Mm.
share a little bit about
You
your
see?
spiritual process, your spiritual
Yes.
preparation?
Well, for me, I don't know how I would have not done it without prayer and trust in God. So for me, it was because of the fear is there. So, I'm the one that's going to use a scripture about it. So, I don't have a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind, and I literally would play things on, I back in the day, I'm about to age myself, when we had the tape recorders,
Of
and
course,
this
yeah.
wasn't that long. I'm pushing a tape recorder. I had created a CD back in the day when I would speak and stuff that had what they call now affirmations, but back then it was just things to help me get through difficult things. And so, I had that playing. I would sleep with it on because I felt like
Mhm.
in my sleep, I needed, because that's when your sleep is
Powerful.
taken, when you're fearful. You're sitting up. That would help me rest because I could take it in when I'm sleeping. I'd wake up encouraged. So that was 6 months of a very focused and intentional stance to
Mm.
take. It was like preparing my parachute. It
Oh,
was like preparing for my jump. It
yeah.
was really um, equipping me. And, like I tell my clients, it's important to have a foundation.
Hmm.
And I also tell my clients, you can only go as far as your highest thought.
True. True.
So if we're thinking down here and we want to go here, I had to do the work to
Hmm.
get to where I was going in, for my brain and the way I talked
Hmm.
about it. So
Hmm.
that's spiritual to me. That's if someone else can do it that way, other way, let me know. And I still have to do it that way. It's not probably as intense because it was so new to make that leap on my own. And money was not my friend at the time.
Money was not your friend.
No, it didn't stick around. It didn't hang out with
It
me.
wasn't loyal.
It wasn't loyal. It just felt like it just was a chase.
Okay. Okay. So we're
So,
going to circle around to the money thing because the money thing
yeah,
is what trips a lot of us up. But what I
yeah.
heard you say is you were aware of the fear, but then you also
Mhm.
did other things to help prepare your mind. You would
Yes.
sleep with those affirmative messages,
Oh,
right?
yes.
So it's getting
Yes.
into your subconscious. So you woke up. encourage
Yes.
the importance of preparation is very important.
Yeah.
And what I
Yeah.
heard you say is that you prepare for 6 months. So when I say to Black women, like if you're thinking about leaving a job, please have a cushion, right? So come up with a timeline and start doing things along that timeline to help you exit plan. So what about this? So you said that money was not your friend, okay? So how did you address money not being your friend? Because again, that's what kind of keeps us back, right? So we might,
Mhm.
things are tight. Let me just stay here. Let me stay
Right.
put because money's tight. So can you expound on what you shared about money was not your friend, and how did you navigate that?
It was once again changing that narrative for me because I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this without being married. Money was with two incomes. It just seemed to fly out the window. I didn't get it. We both made very good money, right? So now I'm on my own, and I went from my parents' home to marriage. Now I'm living on my own. So I never learned paying on rent, paying, that stuff was, I knew I could do it, but there was such a fear of failing. There was
Mm,
such a fear of the unknown.
mm-hmm,
So I had to make money my friend because I thought money was what the example was for 15 years of
hmm,
marriage, but it wasn't that. It was what I made the relationship with money. And so I could rewrite that relationship the way that I took it in as you're not against me, you're for me. Learn how to utilize me, learn how to accept me. Because, us black women, some of us say no real quick, like we got it, we're embarrassed or whatever, you want to
yeah,
just, but saying yes to when are asking for support, not money, but asking for help
mm-hmm,
because you never know. You got to humble yourself a little bit. So I was, I made good money at one time, right? And then now you could possibly get to a place where you're back where you said you'd never go back to because you're about to jump and do your own business. That's
mm-hmm.
scary.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you said you learned to befriend money, does that mean like you learned about resources, about ways to budget, ways to better understand money, better how did you do that?
Resources, meaning resources on how to better understand money.
Okay.
So, right. Meaning, well, so when what I knew is what I had, and I
Hmm.
also knew that there was money coming in, and to not go beyond what I could see
Mm.
and panic. And what I
Hmm.
knew, like today, I have it. Don't worry about tomorrow.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean I go out and spend something. It means I
Right.
took care of business. I
Mhm.
really became very focused on what I was spending, what I was not, what I wanted, what I could do, what I shouldn't do. So
Mhm.
it became very strategic
And more
about how
intentional about money.
more intentional,
Mhm.
making it work for me. I don't have, one day, and I knew it was coming, one day I'll be able to do a lot more. But right now, this is what I'm working with.
Got
And
it.
don't freak out.
Don't freak out.
don't, don't freak out.
Right, right, right.
Um, did I answer that? Because I want to make sure, because I know people, money is a big thing. So
It is.
I want to make sure that, so let me just say this. There
Mhm.
is, I leaped in 2019. That's when I transitioned on my own. It was June 2019. January to March 2020, COVID hit. So
Mm.
you imagine, it's only been 9 months on my own, right?
Mm.
I had to get my relationship with money had to it we got tight real quick. We got
Right.
intimate. We talked.
Yes, it's a
It
quick bonding.
was quick bondage. And I knew that if I was scared of it, it could run from me. But
Mhm.
if I accepted how money works, and that is understanding if I put it here, I could get more of this return. If I do that with it, this could happen. I just started thinking more, not just defense, but offense as well.
Yeah.
So, and money always seemed to happen because I would say that money always comes. I am a, how we used to say that I'm a magnet. Well, I'm a magnet, and and it would happen. Did I work for it? Yes.
Mhm.
The speaking engagements, or even if it was virtual, come up? Yes. Things just started happening. I didn't just sit in a corner and like wait for God to, fluff it down to me. It
Hmm.
was where's the opportunity? Okay, this is funny, Kimani. I would go open my door, front door, and I'd be like, money, come in here now. Come on. I open the door. Come on in here. Oh, I would have meetings that way. I mean, I'm a little off with that because I figured, what do I have to lose? If I act like it's so and I entertain it as it is,
Hmm.
then it seems it would happen. And that's the only reason why I kept doing it, because it would happen. If I say my text, my email, my phone is ringing with opportunities, then they would happen and I would track them. I would track it when it would happen, because we don't know how powerful our voice is.
True.
And
True.
so if I'm going to say it, I want to see if it's going to work. So I would track it. And then I started getting more encouraged because I would see it start happening. People were
Hmm.
like, hey, I was thinking about you. Do you have an opportunity? Can you, and I was like, it's working. So that's how I started relating more, welcoming it in instead of seeing it as something scary way out there that I have to go chase.
Right. And I think a lot of times the fear of money keeps us stuck and we avoid looking at it. That's how we deal with it. We just avoid it. Right. But if we
Opening
avoid
bills.
it, then it doesn't help us because we don't know, like, where are we? What do we need to do? What do we need to call in for ourselves? And we don't know what resources we need. So, can you share what types of resources that you connected to or what helped
Mhm.
you? What resources?
Well, I will say this. When you say tracking, I tracked it. So I knew my budget. And then
Hmm.
I had also would track what came in. So
Hmm.
say I would take a month.
Okay.
And so I would do the income for the month. Now,
Hmm.
all this month, I could think like, "Ooh, that was not a good month." Then I did the numbers, and I'm like, "Wow, I kicked butt this month." So I started keeping track of what was coming in, and I
Hmm.
also faced every bill.
Based every bill.
Face every bill. You don't want to look at it. I had to look at. I had to stop running from the bill we made. I call them obligations I made, and I'm running like I didn't do it. So it's face it so that you know how to make better decisions.
Hmm.
Resources. So when it came to at the time, because I didn't have insurance when did I have insurance then? Um, yes, because I had multiple kids on insurance. So California has opportunities where you can get
Hmm.
support for your insurance, and so I did that. I
Hmm.
went ahead and took advantage of that. I wasn't any
Can
other
I
able.
highlight something real quick, Dr. Carla? Let me just highlight something you said. Because I want Black women to know, in addition to getting a handle on our money, which is essential before you leave a job, the insurance is another issue that keeps us at a job. Right? A job we've outgrown, job is toxic, like, what I'm going to do about health insurance. So, what I want everyone to hear you say was that there was another option for health insurance, and you pivoted to that for health insurance.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I
Hmm.
did that. And even with my 401k that I had at the other jobs,
Hmm.
I happened to meet a financial advisor. And this is not even when, I'm big balling or anything. There's money coming in. So, ladies, just because you don't have a whole bunch of money doesn't mean you cannot have a financial advisor to tell you what to do with a 401k that's sitting at your former employment, or what do you want to do with it? Do you want to put it somewhere so someone's watching it so it can make something for you? So those are opportunities as well.
So
So
true. So true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
the resources are there. Go ahead. No, no.
No, I want to say, and I see in the chat, money was never my friend either. Pays every bill, right? So the thing about, I think for us as Black women too, well, I would say women in general, I know growing up, it was like, oh, I'm not good with money, or women not good with money, or girls not good with money, da da da. But we have to break through with that because we need to have
Mhm.
that financial awareness and that financial independence. So,
Yeah.
what are the things that we can do to get a better handle on it? And I know for me, I knew that I had to approach my financial issue because that was what's keeping me at the job. I knew I had to do it, even though I was like, oh, I don't want to look at my money. Oh, da, da, da. But I had to face every bill. I had to be aware of all these different things. For me, I had to work with somebody. I work with Dr. Roche Brown, who's a financial psychologist. I had to work with her,
Mhm.
like, help me figure out what I need to do to come up
Yeah.
with a financial exit plan. And so now we partner together to do a financial masterclass for Black women. So can you share about, and I don't know if you did, so as you
Mhm.
were pivoting out, or you said this transition, did you have people around you? Because a lot of times our family and friends, they have some fears, they have some thoughts about why are you going to leave this good job, the good benefits, what are
Yeah.
you doing? And they start projecting their fears onto you. Did you have
Mhm.
that experience? And if so, how did you deal with that?
There were on top of my own fear. I didn't really. I'm trying to think of when because you have my mom had passed and my dad was very proud of me, so he
Okay.
never gave me. No, there was no one that from my parents, right? From
Okay.
that, friends. Okay, so I would have like people, want to meet for lunch and they were like, "So, how are you doing?" I don't think they really cared how I was doing. They kind of wanted to see if I was failing. I get some
Ooh,
of the impression, got
ooh.
yeah, because if I'm leaving, and some of these were ex coworkers, if and if anyway, don't matter. Um, this is the way they asked it, and to me, thank God I was doing well. And you know what? I wonder if I wasn't doing well. I'm not going to lie, but I don't really need to tell them how
Yeah.
I'm
It's like
doing.
they were kind of fishing.
Yeah. So, but people want to know. People are. You know what I learned is people want to do it too.
That part. They
They
do.
want to do it too, and they're just not bold enough to say, "Gosh, I wish." Actually, I did get that when I was leaving. They gave me a party, and some people said, "Man, you're so brave. I wish I could do it. I wish I could just leap." So you get a lot of the admiration of the leap.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know the cost. They maybe they do know the cost, and that's why they're not.
They're
But
scared.
yeah, they're scared. But it is something that people are more curious
Mm-hmm.
than, and so they're living out their fear through you because they know what they couldn't do or
Mm-hmm.
what would hinder them, and so they're projecting. And just let it. You gotta just. You got to.
Yeah. Yeah.
People
You said
only want you to fail. Can I say this? People only want you to fail to justify their lack of movement.
ooh, that's profound. Yes, yes. So you said a whole bunch that I want to follow up on. Number
Yeah.
one is sometimes people might ask you how you're doing, and you get the sense that they're not really want to see like how you're doing. Like they're trying to like fish because they're like, how does she do this? Because they're in a similar situation. They want to go, but they're too scared to go. So be
Mhm.
careful of people who are fishing and what
Right.
information you share them in terms of boundaries. The other thing is I get this comment a lot is, oh my God, you're so brave to leave that good job and I could never do that. And right. But it's like this defeatist mentality. And
Mm.
my perspective for anybody watching this is I'll share about my journey of leaving a toxic job. I say to Black women, I am really no different than any person watching me. I really am no different. What's different about me is that I said, wait a minute, what are the issues keeping me there? Right?
Mm.
Finances, concern about my retirement, concerns about my health insurance. Okay, got it. Point. So I need to get the resources together so I can make the plan, right? So in
Right.
that way, I'm no different, right? I have the same fears that Black women leaving a job. I had the same fears, right? So it kept me there for long past the expiration date. But I had the same fears. And so I want Black women to hear you and I say,
Mhm.
wait a minute, we understand the fears there.
Yeah.
And we also understand there's ways to navigate through the fears and that we are really no different than other Black women,
Right.
right? Because I don't want people to see us and be like, oh, well, must be nice for them, or that's because they have a doctorate, or that's because they have, no. What we're talking about is really getting resources in place. And this is for any Black woman. It doesn't matter what your education level is, it doesn't matter what your profession is. And
Right.
that's why I'm so intent on always coming on YouTube, always interviewing other Black women because I want Black women to see other Black women and their journey. But I also am very intentional about sharing the resources of how
Yeah.
to do it. Because you might be like, I want to, but I don't know how to do it. So now let's go back to the transition. So how did you transition out? So you already had your other business
Yes.
So did you say, okay, I want to leave by X date, and then by this date, I'm going to start doing my business full time? Like, how did you transition out?
Okay, so yeah, so when I had the conversation, and during that time, I did a lot of reading, and I wrote like list of books I read. May I share those just to
Sure,
kind of?
please do.
So one of them back in the day, these are some of them are old, but there's Secrets of a Six-Figure Woman. So I would read that one, right? And it was a step by step, like climb up. This is when I wanted to be a CEO.
Okay.
So there was, well, I am a CEO, but you know, in a
Your business,
company,
yes.
right. Didn't it clicked a little different. But when John F. Kennedy Jr. Died in the plane, and his plane went down
Mm-hmm.
over by Martha's
Martha's
Vineyard.
Vineyard.
um, he had an executive assistant, and she wrote an article in Forbes, or they did an article on it in Forbes, and it said executive assistant to entrepreneur. And when I saw that title, I read it, and one, I was like, okay, that's me. I'm going to where I put executive assistant to CEO. That was how I redid it, and I'd have it on my vision board. Part of her article, it said that what oh gosh, I forgot what you said. Anyway, I have a tattoo here. Oh yes,
Oh,
she called it a perfect storm. The transition of what had happened looked crazy, and so when I saw that, it was a perfect storm. I
mm-hmm.
went and said, I got a tattoo. It says perfect storm. Because as much as can happen in our lives, and we
Mm-hmm.
can get discouraged and taken out, or try to be taken out, and tossed to and fro. I had to look at every hardship or anything that came at me as a perfect storm. That there was
Mm-hmm.
a reason behind it, and the outcome was not to hurt me. I
Mm-hmm.
had everything I needed to stay in the boat and survive, but it
Mm-hmm.
was perfecting something in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about transitioning, those are the kind of things I did. I gave myself like memory aids to help me understand that my journey was bigger than doubt in that moment. So it came with reading a book. It came with knowing that I can't do someone else's story. Someone else's story can help me, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not, maybe that's not the way I can do it. I don't have a year's worth of savings. I got 3 months. So that's not my story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't have, my face is not white. So that's not my story. you
Right.
know, I have 4 kids and you may have none. That's not, so I had to be bold in that transition to be okay with creating my own story
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
owning it and having confidence in it. And was I always confident? No, but the goal was to be there. And so that transition was a lot of intake, a lot of information, a lot of working on my confidence. So with that and reading, and one of them was Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, that Forbes, The Courage to Be Disliked is something new. And I learned how to manage up, so I learned to help everything that we did, and I had to believe everything I did in my career and everything we do in our careers help us for this next level, help us for the transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
Every job, whether I worked at a Chinese food restaurant, I used to deliver papers back in the day. Everything that I've done, I've been a host at a restaurant, don't know anything, didn't have to carry the food. I just say hi, and everything that I've done has helped me be the person I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the transition of calculating and taking in everything that I've accomplished, and knowing that I have a skill to talk to people. I have the understanding of I've seen leadership in action. So I'm going to lead, and I've led myself, but I'm learning about people and dynamics and culture and input and output and and money and things that I need to know. And everything, I tell you, it just pulls from what we have through the years. And so that was just pulling on what I knew and
Mm-hmm.
facing things, like not running from things, because
Mm-hmm.
they will chase us down and then we won't lose them. So face it so you can get rid of it and go on to the next level. So transitioning, I don't know if I had a plan other than I have this acronym called STRONG. And the acronym for me is S is strategy,
Mm-hmm.
T is talent, R is resilient, O is optimistic, N is necessary, and G is global. So if I
Mm.
have a strategy and understand my talent, if I remain resistant and optimistic, and better heck no, I am necessary. In anything I put then I can go global.
Mm. I love it. I love it. So, can you share with us in your transition, in your business, what is the business that you do now and how do you
Mhm.
support people that you work with?
My business now is executive coaching, and it goes. I speak and do things like that. That's all the stuff I do. Speak and I do conferences. I host events as well. I have a podcast and all this stuff that I've written books. But what I do for my clients, especially when it comes to the women, is giving them a safe place to
Mhm,
unpack. Because a lot of times, especially my black clients, do
mhm,
not have a place to unpack at a level that they want to unpack, because you can't go, if they're colleagues, they can't necessarily go down and vent. They can't necessarily go up, or maybe they're the up. So who do they go to? So a safe
mhm,
place for someone to unpack. Confidence. I offer them the confidence they need, professional confidence, personal confidence that is necessary to navigate life.
mhm.
Their communication, how to communicate with impact. Because a lot of times, if we feel that we're overlooked or not seen, we become sheepish and we're quiet at the table. How do we get to where we're involved? Not just sitting at the table, but eating at the table.
Ooh,
And making that switch there, because so much is happening, so much toxicity is happening that we begin to shut down. How would we get them to rise up again and to
yeah,
see their value and to know that they're necessary? Because it starts with them before
yeah,
they come
yeah,
and show other people. So,
yeah, yeah. A
that's
question just popped in my head before I ask you some follow-up questions. Um, when I interview Black women, when I hear about the healing journey, I hear about the pivots. Something that I want to be more intentional about asking is, do you have any regrets about pivoting
Mhm.
out of a job that you outgrew?
I have to honestly say, and I just had an anniversary yesterday. I have to honestly say no. And the reason I can say that, Kimani, is I didn't have a plan B. I didn't allow myself to have a plan B, which would probably give me a regret. Now, I'm not going to sit there and look at what's happening on LinkedIn, who's hiring. I'm not saying there's some times I've done it, but then I close it. I'm like, there's no plan B. This is
Mm,
what I'm going to do. This is what I'm doing. And what do I need to do to get to where I see it? And to
mhm.
have, no regrets, just a lot more patience.
Got it.
No regrets though.
Okay, fantastic. So, can you share with us more about your YouTube channel, your podcast, your books, and your events? And how can we find out about these things?
Yeah, so you can, it's drcarlainc.com, drcarlaince.com is the website. And on that website, you're going to, there's resources on there where you'll find the book. The Strong Woman's Playbook is my first book that I did, and it talks about the strong methodology that I utilized. And I have another book it's called The Free Woman, and that's a book you do. It's not necessarily read, it's a book you do. So it's going to have things you do. And that came from a meeting I had called the Free Woman's Conference. So I needed a product or resource to have available for the ladies. So I wrote that one. And so there's things like that. So the speaker, and they'll be uploading some new events. There's nothing planned right now. I just did a coffee with Carla earlier, the end of the first quarter. So we had coffee and we had talk. We just talked about where we are, what's holding us back. We had the fires here in California, and it kind of threw a lot of us off. And so just calibrating and getting us back in tune of where we want to go. So I have those type of events. The next one is going to be cocktails with Carla, and
Oh,
so where we can right.
at
So
least okay.
yeah, so we're going to we do things like that. The podcast is called the Strong Network Podcast, and it's got 5 years worth of episodes on there, and it talks about professional and personal things to help you build your confidence, things that are just, relating to life and what's happened in my life. I share stories and input, and just my goal is to on that is to really encourage you and to give you some insight of how life can be if you work on your mindset and where you're going. And so I think that's it. Website.
And a YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel is the now kind of like the podcast. So you'll see me go live with things, different titles, how to break up with the life you don't want. And
Oh, I
that's
like
one of the
that.
titles on there. Yeah. So it's fairly new, but I would love for you to take a visit there. And that's Dr. Carla uh, Michelle on YouTube as well.
Okay, so I have all her information on the screen and it's also in the description section. So I want to circle back to something you said about helping people regain their confidence. So even though you weren't necessarily in a toxic job that you last pivoted out of, I'm wondering for, let's say, the Black women that you work with, what
Hmm.
have you, what have they shared with you about those confidence busters? Like, what are the situations that really erode at confidence? So last week, my live was talking about microaggressions.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yes.
Aggressions can erode at confidence.
Mhm. Yeah.
So with the clients, particularly the Black women clients that you work with, what are some of the things that you've heard from them without, disclosing, personal information?
Mhm.
What are some of the things you've heard from them that erode their confidence in the workplace?
Microaggressions definitely, that is, and then blatant just racism as well. And just not just micro stuff; it's some big stuff that's being hit with. Um, Also, there's this thing, and I'm gonna say fear. The reason I say fear is because fear shows up in so many ways. Fear shows up where you don't show up in a way. Okay, so you're the angry Black woman, you know, and what this person could show up as the angry Black woman, but yet they are not angry. They're scared that you're going to take their job away. You're going to take their funds
Mhm.
away of how they live their life. So working with them to how to communicate in a way that is truth without getting emotional. Because when we feed into the angry, our voices are different. Maybe they're not. I think they're beautiful. Maybe they have a little bit more bass. Maybe they got a little bit more struggle that's there, and you hear it, but it
Mhm.
doesn't make us angry. It makes us experienced of what life feels like, and so you're going to get that. But how do
Mhm.
we do that communication kung fu and get it to where we can deliver a message the same way so it sinks instead of chops?
Mhm.
So working them with that of just how to navigate the hits. We got a lot of soul bruises working in
Ooh.
right,
Soul
working in,
bruises. Yes, yes, yes. I always call it like these soul crushing jobs. Not all jobs are soul crushing, but
no, no, no.
unfortunately for us as Black women, a lot of our jobs are soul crushing. And the thing about it is that we go from one job to the next and next and next, and it's soul crushing. And we keep thinking, what is going on here? Like, why are these jobs so soul crushing? And I always say to Black women, yes, we need to self assess. Like, okay, what am I doing? What am I contributing?
Hmm.
And also recognizing that these environments are steeped in racism and sexism. So the same dynamics are happening each job you go into. And so it's really recognizing, okay, what's happening? So be able to call out what is happening right now. How is it impacting me? And what are the things I need to do to even figure out, do I want to navigate this or do I want to start cycling out? But also being intentional about there's something off here. There's something off, right? So you talked about some of the ways that the confidence can be eroded, and how has it manifested in the Black women that you work with? So what
Okay.
have you seen or heard from them about how that shows up for them in their lives?
I've seen them play small and then start helping instead of leading. So what I mean by that is they will people take their work, or they allow people to take their work, and they're okay with it because, well, we've worked together for a long time, and
Mm,
now this is their, maybe one or two up. So your work is making them look like amazing while you
mm,
sit back. So that's, I've seen them when they lose their confidence, they just pour into someone else, and someone else is getting all the praise, and they're just being the work mule.
The workforce.
And yeah, and I tell them, if you continue to do this, they will not promote you. You think you're helping your promotion. What you've done is cemented your position, because they're not going to let you go, because you're the reason why they're successful.
Exactly. Right? Like
You-
they're invested and you continuing to make them look good. So what type of advice do you give to Black women in that type of situation? If you
uh,
notice they're kind of, you know,
yeah.
what kind of
Well,
advice do you give them?
Well, there's a lot of times it's been there so long. They've been doing this since they were a kid, where they start decreasing and just giving up their dream for someone else's, and so it's something they find. That's why I like to work on the whole person, because I discover what is happening in your life fundamentally that is affecting your profession. So
Hmm.
this is something that we have to unearth, of
Hmm.
why are you a pleaser? What has made you this pleaser? So I give them a self-sabotage assessment to understand where they come from. And then
Hmm.
we use that to understand, okay, you're pleasing because you're thinking that they'll see you, but they don't see you, they use you. So we have to work on seeing yourself. And so once they start seeing themselves, they usually end up quitting, which is
Oh.
good. And I'm the, sometimes I have this thing, because they're so gifted. They're so gifted. And I
Hmm.
have this entrepreneurial thing where I said, you ever thought of starting something on the side and letting them be your investor, because they're so gifted. And
Hmm.
this person I have in mind has now started, no longer with a company, very big company. It started something on her own, and doing what she did for others for herself.
Amazing, right? So those transferable skills that we talked about a lot during the summit. And the other thing what I appreciate you said is sometimes we have to kind of dip our toe in the water, right? You may not be ready to just go, but start dipping your
Mhm.
toe in the water and saying, if I'm able to do this job, this work here, why can't I do it over here for my own business? And maybe that money that I'm getting from my job, a portion of it can be used to start my own business. So you
Right.
start growing your own business while you still have the job.
Right. May I
Oh,
say something else?
yes.
I met with two ladies, very, very, very talented ladies. Uh, One lady works maybe 50, 60 hours, uh, a lot of hours, always
Mm,
have the computer on. And
mm,
I said, you put all that time into someone else's dream.
mm,
And because they're looking to start their own,
mm.
it's time to use those extra 20 hours or
Right,
more towards your dream. And
right,
that's something that clicked. You're just like, I am helping someone else's dream. Yeah.
right.
Any company we're working for, that is someone's dream. That is someone what
Mhm.
they spoke into existence and made it happen. And we are all on board to help their dream come true
Right, right,
and
right,
get paid less.
right, right, right. So do your job. So if you are contracted to do 40 hours a week, then do your 40 hours a week. But what we're talking about is when you go on 50, 60, 70, 80, right, up and above, and that's not necessary. You're still doing your job at 40. Why
Yes.
are you giving the 80? Because first of all, it's going to make you sick. Anyway, that's
Right.
not sustainable. The other
Right.
thing is it doesn't allow you to explore other things for yourself because you're
Mhm.
pouring everything like it's your business and it's not your business.
It's
So
not.
having that boundary, say, wait a minute, let me slow my roll here. Like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
So as we're winding down, Dr. Carla, if there's a Black woman watching right now and she can resonate with anything we talked about today, and she's feeling like I've outgrown this job, there's no opportunity
Mm-hmm.
for growth here. But I'm really scared. I'm really scared to go. I just, I got bills to pay. I got kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared to go. What words of wisdom can you offer to her?
I would say, like we have been discussing, is to really get things in order is to the best of your ability first. Get life in order. Where there's chaos, get it to where you can feel more confident in making that leap. So build it to where you're confident. What do you
Mhm.
need to do? Write it down. Just do three things. You ain't got to do everything. Three top things. Is it your finances? Is it your mindset? And is it you pick something else, and that's what you work on. It doesn't have to be tomorrow that you get it all done, but it starts becoming part of your plan. And that's your strategy. Then you have your strategy and you look at, what can I do with my talents? And where do I want to go with those talents? Do I want to partner with someone, do something on my own? And how far will those talents take me? Because they can't be fake talents. You got to really know, do I approve? We got fake
Not
talents.
fake balance.
Do you have proof that if you went on your own, it's going to work? So
Right.
that's the thing, get your house in order and then get whatever you're doing started. Like we talked about, start a little bit of it, and see how it goes. Is it catchy? You got a weekend, you got a day. See if it catches on. What are people saying? You don't have to advertise. Some people work word of mouth. Believe that that's going to happen for you. And then once you start saying, I'm getting some good testimonials, things are happening, right? So I got my house in order, I'm tipping into my talent and getting some good feedback. And then you can think about, okay, I'm about to make this happen. Well, you can still have your investor, but you still could grow a little bit more, and see some people say when you're making what you made, leave. I didn't do that. So it's your story. I want to add that part. Don't compare yourself, because comparison is the thief of joy. So find
True.
out what works for you on your
Yeah.
story when you leave and how you want to leave. And do
Yeah.
you have a plan B? If you have a plan B, then you might not be ready. I hate to say this, but I'm going to say you might not be ready to leave. If you say, if it don't work, I'm going to do this. You should think it's going to work. Then if you don't believe it's going to work, then you keep both until you believe in yourself.
I see in the chat, somebody's laughing because I laughed too when you said fake talent. That is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. So, how can somebody distinguish if they have a
Oh
fake
Lord.
talent as opposed to a real talent? How can they determine which is which? That's hilarious.
That just popped because I just think of it. Okay, so well, like I said, if you don't have evidence, as researchers, or if you've done any research or anything that you've done for your life, and you want to do some investigation on a purchase, if you don't have any data that's telling you that your talent is of weight and that is needed and it's going to make an impact, then that's what I mean. But if it's a fake talent, like, I wish, and maybe when I get out here, you haven't even tested it. That's kind of what I'm meaning. It's kind of not like, or no one likes your food and you trying to be a chef. It's just you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go a personal example, right? So, my fake talent is that I'm a good singer. That's a fake talent. Nobody's
Right.
ever told me that I was a good singer. But when I'm in the shower, I think I'm a good singer, right? But that's a fake talent. But if
Yes.
somebody, like when I was at the toxic job and people would seek me out, people
Mm.
that would work through me through the job or other things, they would seek me out for certain things. Like, do you do speaking engagements? Do you do trainings? That's a real talent. But if
So
nobody's
there
talking
you
to
go.
you about something you do, maybe
That's a
question, is
fake
that a real
talent.
talent that I have? Okay. But I love that. You said fake talent, fake talent. Okay. So, so as we're winding down, Dr. Carla, any last
Yes.
words you want to share with the audience today?
Well, first, thank you, Dr. Kimani, of just having me here. I appreciate the time with you and time with the listeners and those who listen after the fact. But I do want to say that anything you put your mind to, it can work. It's just really when we go in and out and we don't stick with what we know. And I'm talking to myself because it's very real. When you own your own business, there's this wave and you learn, am I in it or am I not? And so stick with it. And
Mm,
consistency may wane, but you get back in there and you just stick with it. So anything you want to put your hands to and don't let go.
yeah, don't let go. And I want to say not only thank you for being my guest, but I also want to say thank you because I learned something from you that I wrote down. I was like, oh my God, like when you said perfect storm. So when I think
Mhm.
about even my evolution on this YouTube channel, so me going through my experience at a toxic job and resigning, if I didn't have that experience, I would not have a YouTube channel. I
Right,
would not meet you. I would
right.
not be talking to Black women around the world. I would not be doing all these things I'm doing now. Now, of course, nobody wants to go through trauma.
No,
Okay. I don't. And I also appreciate, look at the woman I've become now.
right,
Like, I
that part.
never, ever, ever could have imagined that I would be on YouTube talking about anything. Right.
Right.
So, and that I will be working to help Black women liberate themselves. Like I never, right? Because I was fighting for my life at that toxic job. I was fighting to just survive. So now to see like once you leave a situation, and when you said also spiritual, right? The spiritual grounding. When I was in that toxic job, when I was leaving, I was fighting so much trying to make it work, and it wasn't working. Nothing I was doing was making it work because I wasn't meant to be there. I wasn't meant to be there. And so when I released, and I was
Ooh,
like,
there you go. That part.
I released God because this cannot be it. When I released and
Right.
when I did that, like so many opportunities came my way. It was unbelievable. And that's why I share my story of the perfect storm, which I wasn't calling a perfect storm, but it absolutely was a perfect storm. And so I'm so full of gratitude to you for you to be my guest today. And I'm so full of gratitude for every Black woman who's ever been a guest on my channel. I'm so full of gratitude to all the Black women in my community
Yes.
who come to
Yes.
the lives or watch the replays or share my
Yes.
videos, like my videos, subscribe to my channel, come to the summit. All these things would have not happened if I had not gone through the perfect storm. Okay. Now, if somebody would have told me, you know what, you need to go through this for this to happen, we're like, what? What are you talking about? Like, no, I don't want to.
Right.
But there was a bigger plan in place for me. I didn't see it at the time. So my hope is for any Black woman watching this, if you are in the storm right now, know that there's something bigger for you. There's something bigger for you. You may not see it right now. Other people might see it, but you may not see it. The importance is for you to know there's something bigger and better for you, and also to get the resources available to you. So, as I mentioned before, Dr. Carla has resources. I have resources on the screen. I've listed resources that Dr. Carla has. I've listed resources that I have. You see going across the screen the replay for the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women. You can get the replay that's going across the screen, also in the description section. So, Black women, I just want you to know, as I always say, you're not alone. If you have either outgrown a job and or you're in a toxic job, you're not alone. Okay. Number two, we have options. We have choices. Many times our ancestors did not have choices. We're in a very different place. We have choices. Number three, we have agency. We are able to follow up on these resources, but we have to walk through the fear. We're not discounting the fears there. The fear is going to be there. But when you start preparing yourself and you follow through with the resources, it helps you feel that sense of liberation. Okay. So I see the comment and that just came in. Thank you both. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. So thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate each and every one of you. So again, remember, subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to Dr. Carla's channel. It's absolutely free. Okay. No cost to that. Give this video a thumbs up and share this video with at least two other Black women. Okay. So everyone, I will see you later. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Right.